Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. The crypto market continues to consolidate, but probably not for much longer. In particular, if one XRP chart analyst I follow ends up being correct, there's a very good chance that XRP season actually may just be weeks away. It's that special moment when XRP rips to the upside and melts faces. We haven't seen the face melting part in like 8 freaking years. Yes, it's great that we've seen multiple new all-time highs for XRP this market cycle, already hitting $3.65. Love to see it. That's absolutely vindication for all of us. Of course, we were right about XRP, and it does have legal clarity. The war on crypto is over. Love to see all that, but the face melting part, that's the final piece of the equation that we've been waiting for. We haven't seen yet, but it is coming. So I'm going to share with you perspective actually from 10 different XRP chart analysts in this video, but I also want to take a little time talking about Bitcoin, which leads the market, so even if you don't hold it, you should care about that. And also reasons why you should expect, based on historic precedent, for Q4 to be absolutely buck wild. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. As I record this video, it is 6:55 p.m. Central Time, and it is Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. XRP is $2.88. Bitcoin hovering at $123,436. So over the last 24 hours, I mean, look at the XRP and the Bitcoin chart as I flash back and forth between the two. It's basically the same damn chart. Like, the market's moving in tandem here. There's nothing weird, nothing bad. We're just waiting for the consolidation to finally end. But not that we have to wait that long. Like, frankly, it hasn't been that long. It's been a number of days since Bitcoin hit almost $126,000. So, like I keep saying, the amount of time that you have to wait, the further you get into a market cycle, it's just shorter and shorter every time. So yes, in the depths of the bear market, sometimes you literally have to wait years, like quite literally, for something fantastic to happen. But in these later stages, no, you actually need to be less patient than you had to earlier on. But yeah, things, history's rhyme with itself, as I firmly believe it's almost certainly going to do. Yes, way, way freaking higher. And you know that the stock market moves in tandem with the crypto market, of course, because they're all risk-on assets. So if there's an increased risk appetite in general when it comes to investing, that's going to impact not just stocks, but yes, of course, also crypto. It's just that there's a greater return on investment in crypto, obviously, going back the last 16 years compared to the stock market, not even close. And so take a look at this post from Jeffrey Hirsch. He's the CEO of Hirsch Holdings. And here we have data going back to 1950, going back to 1950. This is the S&P 500 performance after October all-time highs since 1950. And so here he wrote, Q4 has always been positive after 4 or more S&P 500 new all-time closing highs in October. October, December, and Q4 performance all improved too. So think about this. We've already had 4 closes above all-time high for the S&P 500. And it's only October 8th. That's what we've had 4 in this month already. And he's showing you data going back to 1950, literally, indicating that when this happens, in every such instance, Q4 has been very impressive performance-wise. In fact, if you look at the bottom of the screen here, 4 or more new all-time highs in October, what's the average percentage increase for such years? 22%. That is massive for the S&P 500. And given that crypto moves in tandem with the stock market, what do you think that means for crypto? I absolutely will not be surprised if everything rips higher. And the most fun part will be seeing what happens with altcoins, specifically XRP. I mean, I'm biased. XRP is my favorite coin. I'm not skittish about that. I'm very open. XRP, I'm biased. It's my largest individual crypto holding because it's performed so well over the last year. It now represents about half of my entire crypto portfolio. You'll love to see it. And I think that percentage is going to get even higher. If XRP really does get to some of these price levels that so many chart analysts are talking about, even the conservative analysts talking about double-digit price action for XRP, it's going to feel surreal for so many of us when we get there. Look, I don't know for sure what's going to happen, and yes, it is true. Sometimes the improbable happens. Sometimes there is a first when it comes to history. So we don't know for sure that Q4 is going to go ballistic. But if you're just playing the odds, why wouldn't you think it's way more probable? Like, you don't know, I don't know, but why wouldn't you think it's way more probable that it's going to go crazy? And you know that this is going to benefit XRP substantially. That's why I'm excited about this. Then there was this from Matt Sermonario, chart guy here. He says, here's the average path of Q4 when Q3 is up at least 7.8%. Q4 tends to be strong, plus 7.7%, but most of the gains tend to come in November and December. And so there's some more historic precedent you can look at. Given this is the state of things, this is where we find ourselves. If history is to rhyme with itself, the rest of this quarter is going to be insane. And even if the percentage increase were only 7.7%, that part doesn't matter. Again, that's the S&P 500. What matters is that indicates an increased appetite for risk. That's a risk-on environment. That's what you need if you want crypto to go absolutely insane. That's what we're waiting for. History tells us we should expect that. Here's a post from Andreas Steno Larson, and I wasn't familiar with him. Actually, I'm going to follow him. Apparently, he just recently joined Real Vision, which is Raoul Paul's firm, and here he wrote the most hated rally. I went through most of the sentiment indicators. CFTC, AAII, fear and greed, etc. Interestingly, we're far from euphoric sentiment, which honestly surprised me. Positioning remains neutral to slightly bearish. Higher, much higher. And so that honestly doesn't surprise me at all because I'm on social media here, I'm on X, and I can see people bitching up a storm. That is not the behavior that you see at the peak of market cycles. Everybody really is euphoric. They think the party's never going to stop. It's just going to go up forever, and you'll get yelled at if you say anything to the contrary. That's not the environment that we find ourselves in right now. So I'm actually not surprised, just having lived here on X for a bit. But still, it is nice to see. There's data to back this. Like, this is the environment where that precedes the big move to the upside. So everything is just so perfectly situated. And here's a post from Raoul Paul. He simply wrote in response to this, agreed. Raoul Paul, of course, former Goldman Sachs executive. He does hold some XRP. He's the founder and CEO of Global Macro Investor and Real Vision. And he's the reason that I understand the importance of global M2 and how Bitcoin and thus the entire crypto asset class follows it. And we know that global M2 is hovering around all-time highs. We know there's a lag time for Bitcoin and crypto to catch up. So if it just does what it does the vast majority of the time, yeah, rampage way higher. I mean, that's about as close as you're going to get to a single metric that's an end-all be-all. And it's not, but that's the closest you're going to get to it. That's how important that metric is. And I know about that because of Raoul Paul. So I mention that on my channel all the time because I want as many people as possible to know about that. Here's a post from a popular chart analyst, Panamax, not somebody I'm familiar with, 106,000 followers here, though, but this popped up in my feed and I found it fascinating, so I thought you would too. Bitcoin hit $125,000 and the market still feels calm. Profit taking is way below peak levels. Short-term holders are barely locking in 2% gains. Long-term holders are writing 129% ROI without flinching, and OG wallets are barely spending. No signs of euphoria, no mass exit. This isn't distribution, meaning selling. It's the quiet before the next leg sends everyone chasing again. And so, folks, I firmly believe that is correct. Like, that is the most probable thing. And either you have exposure to the market and XRP when this happens, or you do not. That call is yours. I'm going to continue to do nothing after I buy coins, including XRP. I do literally nothing. My job is to just be more patient than everyone else. And then it just comes to me. The wealth just comes to me. And you can choose to do the same thing. You can do something, whatever you think is best for you, go for it. I'm just telling you, I believe overall, even though I don't make price predictions, I'm with you guys in believing that, yeah, of course, we're going to keep trending to the upside. XRP specifically. Here's a post from chart analyst Tony Severino. He says, Bitcoin's weekly super trend dynamic support is now over $100,000 for the first time ever. It started this bull run at $15,600. This is roughly a 6.5x increase. We can't assume the uptrend has ended until this turns into a sell signal. And you can see, just going back to the beginning of 2023, what he's talking about here. It's just been moving to the upside. Eventually, that will flip. There will be a peak for this market cycle, and you're going to see it move to the downside. And that'll be one signal you can look at, and I'll talk about it when it happens. But, I mean, you can go on CoinMarketCap, and there are 30 indicators that are tracked by CoinMarketCap, and they hint that, when they start flipping, that's when you're getting really close to the peak of the market cycle. Literally none of them have flipped 0 out of 30 indicators have flipped. We are not at the end, though I think we will be there sooner than later. Even if the people who think this is going to drag into 2026 are correct, we're still almost time-wise, we're almost through the entire market cycle, even if this goes into 2026. It's already October 2025, folks. Here's a post from Swissblock, and then I'm going to get into a bunch of XRP stuff. Again, I got perspective from 10 different XRP chart analysts, including double-digit price predictions here, which, again, like if you're talking 10, 11, 12, 13 bucks, maybe those end up being correct, but those are the most conservative predictions out there out of the analysts that I follow. So we'll see. So this is on-chain analytics firm Swissblock. Bitcoin net realized profit/loss shows short-term selling pressure emerging after Bitcoin's new all-time high near $126,000. Investors are taking profits, but unlike past tops, this wave looks controlled, not panic-driven. Conviction remains strong. This has the signs of being a healthy cooling phase. If selling pressure fades while Bitcoin holds above $120,000 to $121,000, it confirms a controlled reset, paving the way for renewed spot demand and the next leg higher. And look, I'm a fan of Swissblock. It's the same guys that run Glassnode that created this. They're just data-driven. They look, here's the data, here's what it's meant in the past, and that's why you can come to a conclusion about what is probable, though not certain. I love that. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Here's a post from chart analyst Mustache. This is another's BTC chart. Others, of course, is the top 125 coins by market cap, excluding the top 10 by market cap. So XRP's not in here, but since the asset class moves in tandem, and I hold a bunch of coins outside of the top 10, I'm always curious to see this. But for years, others has fallen against Bitcoin, and as I always say, markets find bottoms. We're either at or near it. It may have already happened, frankly. And chart analyst Mustache is saying the formation that's playing out right here on this chart, it's on your screen. He says it's a falling wedge, which resolves to the upside. So he wrote, imagine betting against a falling wedge that has been in the making for over 4 years. Bullish monthly MACD is not far off either. So he's talking about this down here, the MACD indicator at the bottom. It's going to flip green. Either maybe on the next candle. We'll see. I mean, this is the moment in time where it makes sense to believe this is the type of thing to occur. There's so much confluence in the market. I mean, various markets. There's the crypto market, and equities. You pick it. You can look at gold even, breaking above $4,000 an ounce for the first time ever. You know what historically follows gold surges to the upside, right? Crypto follows. Historically, crypto follows. So even that's more confluence. Like I love seeing this. It's just there's so many things here. Then we have this from a crypto wizard. This is an ETH USD chart. He says introducing Bitcoin's long lost twin, Bitcoin at the bottom, ETH up top here, and he's basically saying the same type of formation is playing out here that led Bitcoin to rocket. Same thing's happening for ETH. He says, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Ethereum is following the Bitcoin 2020 bull structure to perfection. The breakout has come. Next is the parabolic rally. See you above $5,000 soon. Now, Ethereum's already pretty close to $5,000, frankly. $4,521. Recently, it did hit its all-time high very recently, $4,942. So, I think it's going to get there. You know what the cool part is, though? So, of course, there's historic precedent for XRP matching Ethereum's market cap in times of euphoria, like 2017 and early 2018 in particular. XRP was number 2 in market cap. And so I'll tell you, even if XRP just matches Ethereum's market cap when Ethereum is $5,000, you're already at roughly $10 XRP. Just there. So if Ethereum goes to, say, just does a 2x from its all-time high, you're looking at $10,000 Ethereum, and I don't find that people think that's controversial. Like, that's not some crazy high expectation. Some people think it goes a lot higher. But even if it just goes to like close to $10, that would be $20 XRP if XRP matches the market cap. It frankly doesn't take much to get XRP to life-changing levels for so many people listening right now. So we'll see what happens, but so perfectly positioned. Here's a post from on-chain analytics firm Santiment. XRP is seeing its highest level of retail FUD since Trump's tariffs were announced 6 months ago. There have been more bearish comments than bullish for 2 of the past 3 days, which is generally a promising buy signal. Markets move opposite to small trader expectations. Yes, they do. And that's why I always say the typical lemming retail speculator, they get wrong-footed, and it's the rich people, the whales out there, that buy whatever the counter trade is to the lemming retail speculators. They take that one and they get even more rich. And so here you have people negative about XRP at a moment when the market's just consolidating, and there's very obvious confluence in various markets the world over. I don't see how you couldn't reasonably, if you just have the data, how could you not be excited here? Here's a post from chart analyst Ali Martinez here. $2.80 is the most important support level for XRP. So at the time I'm recording this, of course, we're safely above that. There's broad expectation that what's more probable, though not certain, is a move to the upside. Here's a post from chart analyst Zoom, and he seemed to have pretty much the same take that I did on this the other day. XRP did fall to number 4 in market cap, and at the time that I'm recording this, that is still the case. BNB's gone on quite a run. It's now over $1,300, so that's Binance Coin, of course. That's all-time high territory. It just hit a new all-time high, roughly within the last 24 hours, I think, right? Pretty much. So that doesn't mean there's a problem with XRP, though. So chart analyst Zoom wrote, XRP just got passed by BNB for the number 3 spot. This doesn't mean XRP isn't performing well. It's holding all the structures that are needed to be held. It's just that BNB performed well recently. I strongly believe XRP will take back its number 3 spot when it starts its next leg up. Yeah, and I do too. I think it's not even going to be close. I don't think that BNB has a chance to get even close to as high as XRP will peak this cycle. But it's actually historically very normal for XRP to fall out of the number 3 market cap. This stuff was happening since before I even knew XRP existed. So not weird, not wacky. But to know that XRP is at this level and it hasn't gone on its final parabolic surge, which is historically way, way more intense than the first surge, this very much bodes well for XRP holders. I think we're going to be very impressed and very happy with wherever XRP ends up landing this market cycle. Here's another post from Zoom. It says, I don't understand those who are getting scared. All structures are still in place, and XRP is just moving sideways. Yeah, and that's correct. And we just got to wait a little bit longer. But I don't follow any chart analysts who are arguing that XRP is not going to melt to the upside. Not one. And all of these analysts accurately called that XRP would break upward this market cycle, and they were correct. And they stated that. They put their neck on the lines when it wasn't popular to say that. So I'll be surprised if they're wrong. I'll just say that. Here's a post from the great Matsby. He says, XRP is holding that support like a champ amid all this volatility. Just needs a little more time. And once it breaks above my $3.21 zone, boom, real breakout incoming. So he doesn't think we even have to get that high to see some major price action, like major surges for XRP specifically. And I won't be surprised if that's correct, or correct either, because that's historically normal. It's boring, it's sideways. Oh, now today it's not, just because you just wake up and the market's just going. And it makes sense at this phase in the cycle to happen sooner rather than later. It just does. So that's why I was saying, the way that I'm talking right now, if you were following me in the bear market, you may have noticed I wasn't talking quite like this. That's because it didn't make logical sense to believe that any day XRP was just going to rocket to the upside, and I wasn't ever convinced that it would. But now I'm convinced it's way more probable at this stage of the market cycle. Hell yeah. I'm saying it because it makes sense. Here's a post from Crypto Insight UK looking at a little bull flag here for XRP. I think a break to the upside would be a minimum target of $3.40-ish, where we see the hourly liquidity reside. So another analyst saying, hey, in the short term, you actually could see a nice little pop here. Here's a post from chart analyst CW. It says, all-time high breakthroughs for Ethereum, Solana, and XRP are just around the corner. These rallies are likely to begin at the same time. Following the all-time high breakthroughs of major altcoins, a full-blown alt season will begin. So, look, I'm just telling you, I'm not afraid to share the negative perspectives out there. They almost don't exist. Out of the group of analysts that I have been following for a long time, I can't find them. If I could find them, and eventually you're going to see it. When I start seeing a bunch of analysts that I respect and follow, been following them for years, and they start saying, guys, here's some top signals, I'm going to share that with you. Don't you want to know that? I mean, when those signals start flipping, aren't you going to want to know that? Because I am. That's going to tell us we're at the end, and it's going to put a sense of urgency on me anyway to think, okay, if I want to sell anymore, I need to act soon. I definitely want to be aware of that. We're just not there yet, but yeah, we'll get there. I'm not seeing any analyst that I follow that doesn't think we're going to go way higher first. Here's a post from Altcoin Gordon. Says, show me a chart with more juice than XRP, beyond bullish. And in the short term here, even this month, you can see that he's targeting this thing way higher, getting back closer to all-time high territory. And he thinks it's going to enter face melt territory, not that it's going to peak around, $3.65 or something. He does believe we're going to be getting into double-digit price action here. Here's a post from chart analyst Bobby A. He says, I really hate making time predictions, but I can't help but think XRP is just a few short weeks away from beginning its next rally. I think ETF season will be what sets this baby in motion. Let's see. And so that's a fair enough guess. If you do see a bunch of ETFs for XRP go live, that can be the spark that ignites the fire. It's not crazy to speculate on that. I can see why he doesn't like making time predictions. Truth of the matter is no analyst can consistently predict time. But given that we're this far into the cycle, it's not crazy to think things could happen sooner than later. And if it's based on something like this, it's not the craziest speculation. But yeah, generally when I see somebody making a time prediction, I'm like, I'm getting nervous for you, buddy. But here, at least, there's something backing it like, hey, high probability these ETFs get passed. Now, it is to whatever degree dependent upon when this government shutdown ends, because you're not going to see that happen until after that. And then there's going to be a backlog of work. They're going to have to catch up on things before they finally address the crypto ETF stuff, including XRP. We'll see. But either way, I still think it's coming sooner than later. Here's a post from chart analyst Mikey Bull Crypto. He says, many are not ready for the massive rally that is coming for XRP. Patience, the fun is about to start. Folks, are you seeing the theme over and over again? I am never afraid to share the negative perspectives about XRP price expectations. I'm just not finding them. They practically don't exist. Here's a post from chart analyst Casey Trades. XRP is ready to break out. Technicals look strong. Not much movement on XRP in terms of new highs or lows, but zooming in on local support gives a lot to be optimistic about. The consolidation pattern has completed, and we could see XRP take off into a new impulsive trend any day now. All recent lows continue to hold above the macro 0.5 fib retracement at $2.79. This level remains a significant support on the macro scale, and any attempt to break below it has failed so far. Zooming in, we've broken above the consolidation pattern and saw a backtest hold as support. This aligned with the 0.618/0.65 golden retracements. From an Elliott wave perspective, this could be another subwave 2 before a large wave 3 kicks in. The purpose of the consolidation pattern is to exhaust the market and confuse traders. The fact that nothing has fallen through, is technically a bullish sign. Markets don't typically top with consolidation, so most likely we'll see a wave to new all-time highs. And folks, that is a matter-of-fact statement. This is not typically what a peak looks like for any chart, and sure as hell not XRP. Wouldn't it just be bizarre if XRP spent a better part of a decade consolidating, only to barely break above a new all-time high for a market cycle, and then it's just done when it's shown this much strength? Yeah, I don't find that remotely probable. And then she says, let me remind you, XRP consolidated for 7 years before breaking out from 50 cents to $3.66. That kind of consolidation is not meaningless. I also don't think its purpose was just to reach previous all-time high. Currently, subwaves are getting constricted, which is why extensions are being limited to $4.50 and $6.50. However, the macro targets of $8 to $13 remain entirely possible if momentum continues strong. Yeah, I agree. That is not crazy. We'll see if it hits. Now, I'm never going to make price predictions. That's not my shtick. I just don't do it. But yes, I'm with the rest of you guys in believing that this is going to go way higher before we finally hit a peak. And we're getting there, folks. Just got to wait a little bit longer. But do you see all of the confluence? That's why I love making these videos and highlighting everything, because it just seems so freaking obvious to me. And I assume that most of you are nodding along going, yeah, it actually does look like that. It's because how can you deny? It's history. It's historic performance. For you to think it's not probable, you'd have to say, no, this is going to be the small percentage of times where so-and-so doesn't happen. Like, come on. I mean, you can take that bet, but, if I keep taking the bet where history rhymes with itself and you keep taking the one where it doesn't, I'm going to win the vast majority of the time and you'll only win sometimes. So I'll be wrong sometimes, but not most of the time. I can't imagine being the guy that wants to take that bet. It is way more probable this thing rips to the upside, and of course XRP is going to benefit from it. Just got to wait a little bit longer. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say are right. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.